Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Carl Mann, here today with just Tommy Sullivan, and this is the Three Man Rush podcast, casual NFL gambling podcast with a few casual NFL gamblers. In case you're new here, we are not professionals. Nothing we say should be considered gambling or financial advice. Again, we're simply just a bunch of passionate football fans who enjoy betting on these games each week. If you're new here, format of the show, we're going to be breaking down every single game on the NFL schedule, picking results against the spread, giving you our favorite bets of the week, and a little parlay as we wrap it up at the end here. But first, without further ado, let me bring in my friend and co-host, Tommy Sullivan. Tommy, what's going on?
What up, everybody? We're just chilling here, another week, another dollar. We skated by last week, and in the background we got a little baseball playoff action, so that's pretty good. And ready to roll again.
Hell yes, we do. It's playoff baseball. The Red Sox are winning games more so than our hometown Patriots, but this is not an MLB betting podcast, although after some successful bets last week, maybe we'll start introducing that as well, sprinkling in a few of those. Definitely not this week, but if the Red Sox make it to the World Series, maybe we'll throw some money on those games. Tommy, did you bet anything other than football this week? Any other sports you bet on? Hockey season's picking up.
I was going to say I didn't bet on any games specifically, but I did do some DFS hockey where I won a little bit, I lost a little bit more, so I probably won't be doing much more of that. We'll stick it to football for now.
Love it. Though that's why we are a football podcast and not anything else, because clearly this is what we like to do, and everything else is just a little extra fun. But anyway, let's get on to a little recap of our week 6. We all had the same exact week 6. Actually, we all went 7-7. It made for some interesting dollar bill islands, which we'll touch on in just a second here. But with everyone going 7-7, the standings stay exactly the same. Overall record for Pat is going to be 44-49, and that one push in week 5. I'm a little bit above that at 45-48-1. And then Tommy, again, not making up any ground with the same record at 7-7, 42-51, and the one push. And just like I alluded to. Yeah,
I should mention right now before we forget that Pat took his winnings on Dollar Bill Island from 2 weeks ago, and he and the lovely wife decided to hitch another week on those wonderful islands, and so that explains his absence so far. That's why you haven't heard that boisterous voice here.
Yeah, that's why I'm running the show again this week. It's not. We made a joke a couple weeks ago about kicking him off the podcast. We did not do that. He should be here. Knock on wood, next week. We have full confidence that he'll be able to return to us next week. But absolutely, hopefully after a successful week here, we'll see what his picks are. Obviously coming up later on. But Dollar Bill Island from last week. Let's cue that music up. Let's take it tropical. Dollar Bill Island. If you're not familiar, this is where one of us was all alone on an island with a team that ended up winning. So one person won that game. The other two picked the opposite team and they lost. So you earn your share on Dollar Bill Island. Surprisingly enough, we actually had 7 Dollar Bill Islands this week. Tommy, you took 2. Jacksonville, a nice tropical little location down in Florida. I guess not really tropical. It's more towards the top of the state, but Florida is a lot nicer this time of year than Massachusetts and upstate New York. And the Vegas Raiders, which, I would love to be my hometown team. If I could ever move out to Vegas, I would. Pat, I don't know how we keep missing this every week. Pat takes these teams like almost every week, and it almost ends up always being his Dollar Bill Island. I don't know why we're not taking these every week as well. But he took Arizona and Kansas City all alone by himself somehow and obviously those paid off. And I actually had 3. So you guys each had 2. I had 3. I had Baltimore, I had the Colts, and I had Tennessee last night on Monday Night Football. Obviously, we record this on Tuesday. Last night, Monday Night Football. Not a controversial finish in the sense that it was a questionable call by the referee, but that was a tough way to go out there, 4th and inches, slipping, not getting the first down when they could have had that field goal to tie it. Interesting call there. But hey, I'm all for it. It helped me out both financially and on Dollar Bill Island. So on the season, that takes me to 14 Dollar Bill Island wins. Pat just behind me with 13. We were tied last week, so I got that extra game in hand this one. And Tommy, you got a couple back here. You're at 11 now in the double digits for Dollar Bill Island. Anything you want to say going into this? Yeah, you're still, there's plenty of weeks left in the season. I'm sure those picks will come your way eventually. Everything will even itself out. Let's take this time to recap our best bets from week 5. We're not going to go through all the picks that we had, but we're going to go over the total points that we received from those week 5 best bets. Pat took 2 of his. Actually, he took 3 points from week 6. So he won the week with you as well, taking 3. You guys both got 3. I took 2 points last week. That brings my total to 18, as well as Pat. His total is 18. Tommy, you're down at 11 still trying to bring up the rear here. 11's your lucky number with Dollar Bill and also your total points from these best bets. But you do have the first pick when we get into these for this week. How you feeling with this week's best bets? You confident? You feel like you're going to make up some ground? I mean, it would be really helpful to take all 6 points. You still couldn't, jump us in the standings at that point, but a 6-point week would be really helpful for you here.
I know the Chargers kind of screwed me. I talked them up a big game last week, and they just put up a little egg against the Ravens. And
yeah, I mean, I can't say I agree with you because I was alone on Dollar Bill Island, but I'm sure Pat, if he was here, would be backing you up 100%. We are going to take this time to let you know that this week is going to be an abbreviated format for the podcast. We are just going to roll through picks here. Typically, we have some other segments, but we're just going to roll through our picks only this week. It's a nice quick podcast. Starting off here with the best bets draft.
Jerry, show me the money! Jerry, you better yell! Show me the money!
Best bets draft. 3 picks each person. It is a snake draft format. Tommy is going to go first this week, followed by Pat. I'll take the 3rd pick, and then it snakes back around until we all complete our 3 picks. Your first pick is worth 3 points. Your second pick is worth 2, and your 3rd pick is worth 1 point. Again, for a total of 6 points potential on the week. Tommy is going to lead us off here with his number 1 pick of this week's best bets draft.
Yes, I do this week. And with that first pick, I think I'm going to take a game that jumped out at me right away, and that is going to be the Panthers -3 at the Giants. I just think the Panthers, even after losing to the Vikings in overtime last week, I think that they are much better than the Giants. Saquon's still out. And even though the Giants put up – no, they didn't put up a fight. I don't know what I'm talking about. The Giants are bad. The Panthers are pretty good and going to be in the playoff hunt. For this kind of disparity, -3 is too small of a window, and I will hop all over that.
Yeah, my numbers have me picking against it. We're going to pick all the games a little bit later on, but they definitely did not show up against the Rams last week at home as well. So I don't hate that. I'm on the other side, but I don't hate that as a number 1 pick. That's pretty good, especially coming off the Giants' bad week. Mm-hmm. Pat Bradley, not visible here, has sent in his picks, and his number 1 pick this week is going to be Colts +4. Tommy, we thought this was an interesting pick. Why don't you give your take really quickly on why we think that's interesting, and then I'll give Pat's take on why he thinks that's a good pick for his number 1 pick.
I just think that, I mean, the Colts have been playing better as of recent, it's true, but I think the 49ers are in that top echelon in the NFC, which I think is a superior conference anyways, and especially the fact that the Colts are coming off, obviously played last week, and they lost yet another receiver. Both T.Y. Hilton came back and got injured, and they lost another receiver who I think is week to week now. I forget if it was Pascal or I think it was Pascal, but I'm not sure.
Mhm.
The 49ers have had 2 weeks now to prepare for this game coming off of the bye. They're at home. Colts have to travel on the road. There's just too many
And
factors.
it's Sunday night football. Like, there's so many factors too. Like, I'm with you.
It just
Pat,
points towards the 49ers for me.
yeah, and this is an interesting first pick for Pat. He's taking the points here. I mean, he's saying here that he thinks the Colts have looked better a couple weeks in a row. I mean, they just came off like the game against the Texans. It's really not really anything crazy to hang your hat on. But Niners, he thinks are trending down. Bye week, no bye week. Jimmy G, no Jimmy G. So he's on the Colts for those reasons. I think we're on the opposite side. Again, this could put Pat on a dollar bill island spot, but that is not the topic of this conversation right now. We are just taking those best bets, and Pat's number one pick, Colts +4. That's going to swing it around to me with 2 picks in a row, and I'm going to take a high spread. I'm going to go Rams -14.5. Throwing my nuts on the table here. I think the Lions have been playing close games, for the most part, relatively. They've had some close games. They've had some not close games. I think that this is one of those weeks where it's a blowout central. Revenge game here. This is where the two quarterbacks flip sides. This is a game in LA. My projected line is 24 to almost 25 points, and 14.5 is well under that number. So this is my biggest value of the week. Again, my numbers get spit out based on statistics. So this game could be close, and this could be a cover spot for the Lions, but I have this as a blowout, just like the Texans game last week, just like the Rams game that they played last week. I think they have 2 big weeks in a row. They show that they can take care of business against bad teams. Let's just ride that hot streak, even on a bigger spread. I'm taking the Rams -14.5.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I think that is I agree with that assessment. I forgot about the revenge narrative there, and I think the Rams will come out guns blazing.
Yeah, 100%. My second pick here worth 2 points. Now we're in the second round. I'm taking the Ravens -6 home favorites in the division here. So 6 points is, a decent amount for a division game. They are taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. Again, division game, 6 points, bigger spread here. I just think this game is going to be over a touchdown difference. 6 points is a nice even line too, where if it does go to overtime, a touchdown gets you that cover. I've had it come against me last week on Thursday Night Football where a team has been down 14, scored a touchdown, went for 2 for no reason, and ended up losing by 6. Tampa Bay versus Philadelphia. So if I can get that 6 right there, I'll take it, even in a division matchup. So give me the Ravens -6 here, with the hope that if for some crazy thing happens where the Ravens have to only win by 6, at least I get a push there. And for the sake of this, it doesn't help me with no points, but I'm confident in the 6 points here for the Ravens. So that's my number 2.
I was gonna say, I gave you props for your first pick. We'll see. Maybe you'll sway me when it comes to picking our picks, but we'll see how I feel when we get to that section of the pod here.
Tommy, you are going to be up here with a couple picks in a row, but why don't you give Pat's second pick here in round 2?
Correct, and he is actually going right back to the primetime well. And he is taking the Monday night game. He's going to take the Seahawks and the points right now. They are +4.5 against New Orleans. And so he's going to take the home team in primetime. We'll once again see how I feel about that. But a little teaser from me is that I think that this is 2 bad picks in a row for Mr. Bradley. Maybe on that island having a little too many pina coladas. But we'll see what happens when Sunday and Monday rolls around.
Yeah. Again, we'll touch on this a little bit later. I do actually like his pick. You know, we'll see how it plays out, but he's made his pick. He's got to stick with it. He's not really here to defend himself. Maybe we'll get some reactions from him next week when he's on the pod. Tommy, you're gonna have your second pick here, and then right into your third. So, which one are you going with as your 2-point pick?
So for my second pick, I'm taking the Packers here. I think them at home against a banged up Washington football team. They're rolling right now. They might be the hottest team in football, and 9.5 points against Washington is even too low for that. So I think that they just keep it rolling, and I think that this could be like a 14-point game, but easy Packers decision for me on that one.
Yeah, love it. I'm 100% in line with that. I'll give Pat's loop around pick here. Oh, I'm sorry. You have to give your third pick. Yeah. Yeah. Let's go with your third pick. Perfect.
And I'm going to keep the theme of trash and Pat a little bit here because I'm going to actually take the 49ers. He took the Colts earlier. I think the 49ers. I already gave my reasons why. Coming off a bye at home. I think they're still a better team overall. -4 is not a lot. I think they could win by a touchdown to 10 points. So if you're giving me all those factors at just a -4 line, give me the 49ers here.
Beautiful. Beautiful pick. I love it. I'm on board. I actually I think I'm in line with all your picks, I believe.
Uh-oh.
No, I'm not, because you took the Panthers and I don't like the Panthers.
We'll see.
We'll see. Some dollar bill islands this week for sure. I already see it coming. It's on the ball. Let's go into these last two picks here. Pat's 1-point pick and my 1-point pick. These could be homer picks. These could be, statistical analysis picks. Mine's a homer pick. I don't know about Pat's. He is going with the Bucks -12.5. Big spread there, but it's against the Bears. Not a great team. We'll see if they can cover that bigger spread here. It is in Tampa Bay, which I'm sure will help out. Tom Brady loves home games, not only in Tampa Bay, but over the course of his career in New England. So Pat's going to ride that trend for the Bucks. Our Patriots, however, looking like crap at home. Have not won a game at home this season. 0-4. Can't tell you the last time they've lost more than 2 home games. That's just throwing it out there. They probably did that last year, if I'm being honest. But it seems like they had that home winning record, and all of a sudden that's just thrown out the window, and we have no idea what to do when we're in Gillette. So those aren't even against the spread. Those are just straight up losses. I'm, however, going to take Patriots -6.5. It's against the Jets. It's at home. I hate the Jets. I'll never pick the Jets. So anytime I can bet against them, I will. So give me Patriots -6.5 here. And that'll do it for our best bets. Do you have anything to say before we wrap it up, Tommy? You like the Pats?
Well, I do like the Pats. I do like the Bucks, but I give you more credit for your podcaster host integrity on saying that Pat taking the Bucks is not a homer pick, when I think we all know that the Buccaneers and Tom Brady and Patrick Bradley are the holy trinity of homer picks.
There's like 3 things you can count on in this podcast: is Pat betting for Patrick Mahomes, Pat betting for Tom Brady, and us not valuing the Cardinals enough. So I think Pat's. We should just go back through all of our podcasts and see if he's picked the Bucks, the Chiefs, and the Cardinals every single week. I feel like he probably has, honestly. We should check.
It's contributed to like half of his winnings so far. So
it really has. And most of my losses. I'm going to recap these best bets picks real quick, and then we'll get into our overall picks for every single game. Tommy, you took the Panthers -3 with your first pick. Pat went Colts +4. I took Rams -14.5. In the second round here, I took the Ravens -6. Pat went Seahawks +4.5. You took the Packers -9.5. And then to wrap it up here, you took the 49ers -4. Pat took the Bucks -12.5. And then I took the Patriots -6.5. That does it for our best bets draft. Let's get into the Week 7 full slate of games here, starting with the Thursday night football game, the Denver Broncos at the Cleveland Browns -3.5. Tommy, you go first here and tell me who you're picking and why.
So ever since I talked a big game about the Panthers beating the Texans on Thursday night, I think I've gone whenever that game was over 2, over 3 on Thursday night games. I've tried to stick with the narrative of the home team because less time to prepare. That did not work for me last week. And this week, normally I would take the Browns because it is a small spread, but Baker is questionable at best, I would say. The best running team in football doesn't have either of their top 2 running backs, and so I think with this spread, I think that I would take the Broncos to cover it, even though they're coming off a bad week against the Raiders. They might have been looking ahead to this game, so that maybe they're more prepared than usual for most Thursday night matchups. But considering all the injuries that Cleveland has, I'll take the Broncos to at least cover. I don't know if they'll win, but to at least cover.
Yeah, Pat's with you on that one. He's on the Broncos as well. I'm on the opposite side. I'm on the Browns. And again, maybe I'm just not injury adjusted enough here on the line, but I have it almost touchdown spread. I'm really low on the Broncos and super high on the Browns. The Browns have had some tough games, some tough matchups this season so far. That's really no excuse for their record and or how they've been playing versus some opponents. But, that 3.5 could hook me. The Broncos could come into Cleveland and surprise me and win outright. But at 3.5, I'm going to take Cleveland here, hoping that they can, maybe turn some red zone possessions into touchdowns and hold Denver to some red zone field goals. And that could give me a 4-point difference that I need there to get that cover. So give me Browns here, hoping that I can fight off that 3.5. I think that 3.5 is actually laying at plus 100 right now as we record the podcast. So there is a little semi value on that, or the chance that it does drop to a -3 straight up. And that would even be a little bit better for me. So if I can avoid that 3.5 somewhere later in this week, I definitely will take that. But for the podcast, give me 3.5 here. Cleveland -3.5. Tommy and Pat, you guys are on the Broncos plus 3.5.
And the last thing that I would say is the over-under for this game is 42 right now. And even though that seems low, I think that I would still take the under there just because the Cleveland, with all their injuries, are not a very good team. And the Broncos, I think, are a middling team as well. So I think this is going to be a lot of back and forth punting field goal type of game.
Yeah, Cleveland's supposed to have a good defense. They have like a really good pass rush, in theory, with Myles Garrett. But I don't know. I have them in fantasy for my defense, and sometimes they're good, and a lot of times they're giving up 30+ points. So we'll see how it plays out. But I'm still riding with my Browns here, and Baker Mayfield. Moving on to some teams that are in Cleveland's division, actually. Let's go to Cincinnati at Baltimore, -6. Baltimore -6, home favorites. I picked them in my best bets, so I think we know where I stand. I think it's going to be a bigger margin of victory than expected. And Pat is on board with me here with the Ravens. But you were on the other side, Tommy. Are you sticking with your Bengals?
I am actually. I think the Bengals are a sneaky, not obviously they're not world beaters, but I think that they're a sneaky good team this year. Their defense is making strides throughout the season. It is a divisional game. I don't think they're going to win, but I think divisional game plus a team that is better than people are giving them credit for. I think -6 is just too big of a line for that, and so give me the points in this one for sure, and I will take the Bengals.
Yeah, I don't hate that idea. Not for me personally. I don't hate it for you. It's one of those things where I don't think Baltimore loses the game, and I'm hoping that they can cover that spread. I haven't projected to cover the spread, but it wouldn't surprise me if Baltimore could be up. I mean, Baltimore could start slow like they did against the Colts a couple of weeks ago and have it be a late game where it's a closer game than it maybe should be, or they could come up, show out like they did for the Chargers game and have it be a complete shutdown. So we'll see how it goes. Obviously, that's going to be something we're going to keep an eye on. But myself and Pat, we are on the Ravens, and you are on the Bengals. So that actually gives us two dollar bill islands in a row with those first two games that we've already discussed. Potential, of course, if the Browns and the Bengals can cover those spreads. Moving on to our third game on here, we have the Washington football team at the Green Bay Packers. The line right now is Packers minus 9.5. And honestly, we are all on the Packers. All three of us taking the Packers with that big spread. Me personally, I'll just start by saying Washington has screwed me week in and week out. I had them overvalued to start the season, I think, because they are just a team that I keep betting and to cover at least, maybe not even to win outright, but I keep betting them, and their defense just hasn't shown up. They did a pretty good job slowing down Patrick Mahomes for most of that game last week, and then all of a sudden it just got out of hand, and they turned into the same Washington team they've been week in and week out. So for me, I'm out on Washington until they can prove me otherwise. That's why I'm on Green Bay here. Don't like it up to 14, so anything under like 13.5, it's questionable. But sitting at 9.5, it shouldn't go that high. So if you can get it at 9.5 or 10, perfect. 10.5, it gets a little sketchy for me. Tommy, what are your thoughts here? Just real quick on this game.
Yeah, I mean, I took them in the best bets. This is one of, I would say, 4 games where it's a very clearly elite team versus a very clearly not elite team, but they have the lowest spread of those 4 games. So this is easily going to be a 10 to 14 point win. I probably shouldn't speak in absolutes like that because I just jinxed myself. But I still like it, especially Green Bay at home. They got rolling against the Bears last week on the road. They get to travel back, feeling good, feeling positive. Washington's traveling, feeling the exact opposite. So I think this is going to be a wash for Green Bay.
Yeah, so I will say I'm looking at last week, and there were a couple of games that we were like really confident in where all three of us took the same team. We've won a few of those games and we lost a few. So just because we're all on it doesn't mean that it's going to be correct or incorrect. But we are all on the same side in agreement here. So maybe that's something you want to take into consideration where you want to follow us, or maybe you don't, but there's really no trend for us. If we all pick the game, it's not like we always win. It's not like we always lose. It's still right around 50-50. So keep that in mind here. If you're listening and you like the Packers, take it. If you don't, whatever, go against us. Who cares? Stop listening to the podcast then. Moving on to the next game, we have the Atlanta Falcons as road favorites, minus 2.5 at Miami. 2 teams that played in London over the last couple of weeks. Miami, surprisingly enough, having a home game after a London game. Didn't know that was a thing. I thought they got a bye after, but here we are nonetheless. Atlanta minus 2.5 at Miami. I'm on Miami. Again, not factoring in maybe the travel time, not factoring in how bad Miami played against one of the worst teams in the league in Jacksonville. I could have them overvalued here, but I actually think Miami should be slight favorites in this game, even with all those taken into consideration. So I'm taking Miami as a home dog here. It's just really tough to pass up home dogs in general. So I am on Miami, but Tommy, let me hear what you have to think in this game. Are you with me? Are you without me? What are you feeling?
Oh, I am leaving you in the dust because I am taking those travel considerations hardcore, having to cross back over the pond to face a team that had the Falcons themselves are coming off of a bye when Miami should have a bye right now. So they've been sitting there for 2 weeks waiting for Miami to come back, jet lagged to heck. And Miami just I don't know where their defense is. I understand the gripes on offense. Tua had a good fantasy week last week, but not a good real football week. They can't run the ball at all because their offensive line is so bad. And I just think I don't think they're a very good team. I think Atlanta's obviously not a very good team either, but I think that they're better. And when you factor in the travel of both teams, I think that they should honestly be like a 4 to 5 point favorite. So getting them a minus 2.5, I'll take that for sure.
Yeah, Pat's with you on this one. He likes Atlanta. My numbers have been, hit or miss. There's weeks where I'm like, double-digit wins. There's weeks where I'm single-digit wins. And there's weeks where I'm 50-50. So I just trust my numbers and hope that they're right most of the time. On the surface, this looks like one that I would probably question myself, which is probably why I'm going to stay away from it actually financially with all those things in consideration. But for the podcast, I'm on Miami here. Pat and Tommy are on Atlanta.
I was going to say, this is an odd number week for you, so I should feel better that I'm going against you a little bit.
Yeah, but last week was an even number week, and I only went 7-7. So
True.
am I regressing? Am I I mean, we're pretty even right now.
We'll see.
We'll see what happens. We'll see. The games are getting fewer because of those bye weeks. So the more wins I can have in these weeks, the better my odds are. It's going to take us into the New York Jets at the New England Patriots. Patriots are -6.5 favorites here. We touched on this a little bit in our best bet segment when I took them with my third pick. Tommy, how are we feeling with the hometown team?
I'm actually feeling a little bit confused with Vegas on this one. I was explaining this to you before we started recording, but when the Patriots for week 2 traveled to New York coming off of a very bad game against Miami, yet they were still a 10-point favorite against the Jets. And now this week coming off of, I mean, it was still bad. That was a winnable game against Dallas. There were some decisions made by the coaching staff that I would say were less than ideal. But I don't understand how they can go to New York, be 10-point favorites, absolutely destroy them, and then with New York coming here, the line is only 6.5. Like that,
right?
That to me makes no real sense. And so with an even smaller line for the Patriots to have to cover against this Jets team, I'm all over New England here this week. I think that they're going to bounce back. I think they're good. They like this game. I would say the Dallas game probably lit a fire in them. They probably have a bad taste in their mouth, and the Jets are just that unfortunate team this week that have to take that punch.
Yeah, I agree, and it's one of those things where I knocked the Patriots' home field advantage down for reasons that we talked about earlier, where they're not winning at home.
Mm-hmm.
Not they're not covering, they're not even winning. So there's really no home field advantage there. But I still think that the line is a little bit too low, and if you can get it under a touchdown, that would be ideal. Like 7.5 is, I mean, something that I would probably take anyway, but it's still a key number there. So 6.5, 7, if you can keep it right there. We're going to talk teasers a little later on anyway. But as someone who liked it as one of my better picks, partially because I'm rooting for the home team, I'm sticking with New England here at -6. Pat said pretty much the same thing, is we shouldn't really trust the Patriots at home. But can we also trust the New York Jets?
Exactly.
Like, you know, it's one of those things where, again, maybe we're letting that home field or home team bias creep in a little bit more than it should. But going against our better judgments, we just know the Patriots versus Jets history. And anytime you can get the Patriots at home versus the Jets, you're typically taking that as a favorable matchup for New England. So all things considered, we are all on the New England Patriots here, -6.5, taking on the Jets in Foxborough.
The other thing I will say about this game is that Mac Jones has been trying really hard and it's been talked about on the broadcast. Jacoby Myers has been trying to get in the end zone. I think he has the most receptions or something by a wide receiver without having a touchdown catch in his career.
Yeah.
And they're trying really hard to do that. So if you're looking at props this week, I would bet that until it happens, because he's going to catch a touchdown this year at some point. So you just got to ride that train until it happens, because it's going to happen soon. He's gotten so close over the last 3 weeks, and and
he had
knocked out at the 1 or the half-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to get there.
Yep, that's what I was going to say, is he had one this past week. He was called back for a penalty. So I don't hate that. That's a good idea. Mm-hmm. I'm all for it. Moving on to the next game here, we have Carolina -3 at the New York Football Giants. This is another home favorite here. Carolina Panthers -3 going to MetLife. Tommy, taking the road favorite here. What are we doing?
Well, I mean, it's not a revenge game per se, but Sam Darnold is returning to his stomping grounds at MetLife. I just think the Giants are not that good of a team. They're still dealing with a ton of injuries. Kadarius Toney left last week's game with another injury. They got Sterling Shepard back, but they lost that electricity in their offense. I think Chuba Hubbard can run roughshod over this Giants team right now, and at just a field goal, they just have to win by to get a push. I think that they'll win by at least a touchdown over this Giants team. And for me, Carolina is the easy choice. I'm interested to hear what you think if you go against me.
Yeah, I'm against you. I alluded to this a little bit earlier in your best bets, but again, I don't hate your pick. This is almost a toss-up game. The line's like relatively close to in line, like injuries considered. to be like right where I think it should be. So I mentioned it again earlier. If I can take a home dog, I feel like I'm going to. I feel like this could be the week where those underdogs start to maybe win a little bit more, especially those home dogs. Underdogs have actually won a little bit more on overall this season. I think it's something like 50, 51 and like 43 or something like that. So underdogs are covering a little bit above 50%, which, might not be good for my case because typically things go back to the mean. So this could be a week where a lot of favorites win, but I'm going to take the Giants here plus the 3 just because they are at home. Carolina maybe should have won last week versus the Vikings. Who knows? They taking care of business. The Giants did not, but I'm going to go ahead and take the Giants here and just put myself alone on dollar bill island like I've been doing week in and week out.
I was gonna say you're in line. If a couple of these work out for you, you're in line for a pretty nice week.
For real. Little bit of a teaser because that trend does continue on this next game here. Another road favorite, Kansas City -5.5 at Tennessee. Tennessee home dogs coming off a Monday night victory. It was a close matchup. There was like no defense being played in that game. Derrick Henry took over. Is this something that he can do again in back-to-back weeks versus this Kansas City defense?
I think that it could actually, but at the same time, the Titans were one Josh Allen slip away from losing that game last week. And also, I'm not sure if that would have factored into the cover at all, but
I don't think they would have covered if they scored the touchdown. They would have probably needed to kick the field goal and then push on a touchdown. If you got 6, if you got 5.5, then the touchdown in overtime would have been perfect.
Wow.
Depends on when you got it. And I mean, Pat would have got it at 3.5, so he probably would have covered because it was a 3-point loss for the Bills. Mm-hmm. So Pat would have covered. We would not have.
We would not have. But yeah, so if I feel like that factor in. KC looks like they might be. Hopefully, they're rounding into form a little bit. Washington hopefully gave them a little boost, but this one is probably one of the riskier bets because, as you noted earlier, Washington somehow played them well for a pretty decent chunk of that game until KC just pulled away. Tennessee is obviously better than Washington, so 5.5 is a pretty big number. But I'll take Patrick Mahomes here, but I don't really like it.
Yeah, I'm on the opposite side. I think that Tennessee is one of the top teams in the league, and this is kind of going exactly opposite of what Pat says every week. Is if you can get Patrick Mahomes as an underdog, or if you can get him like getting a small spread, I'm on the opposite side here, where the Titans, that spread just seems way too high. I think they should probably be favorites, especially at home. They don't have to go anywhere. They just played a home game. Granted, it was on Monday night, so they have that one fewer day of rest and recovery. But, I mean, I think Derrick Henry should be able to run all over this Kansas City defense. What does worry me is the matchup of the Chiefs offense going against the Tennessee defense. Typically, you think Mike Vrabel would have a better defensive unit than they've been putting up. And they did for the most part last year. It felt like they were just – the last couple of years, it felt like they played strong defense and relied on the run game. And now it seems like they're still relying on the run game, but it's just being a little bit more of a shootout. So I don't know. I'm taking personally the points, and I'll probably also sprinkle a little bit on the money line, which is exactly what I did against Buffalo. And of course, we know how that ended. So it worked out financially well for me.
Yeah, and Pat pretty much feels the same way as the both of us. This is pretty much a coin flip for us. We just landed on the Chiefs. You landed on the Titans. We'll see how it goes. Who knows? By the time I go to actually place my bets, maybe the line will have moved some way that'll sway me to actually bet the Titans if I bet the game. But this seems like the biggest coin flip of the week for all.
Oh yeah, and Pat says too, like he's wondering if this is like a Vegas trap game where it's like everyone just watch Tennessee take care of Buffalo. Why are they again 5.5 point underdogs? Like no respect here. And so like if this line came out as a pick'em or Tennessee as favorites, like no one's questioning that. You know what I mean? Like everyone is like, yeah, that's probably in line with where it should be. So again, we're looking at a 5.5-point spread here with Tennessee getting points. Like, how can you not? So maybe it is a trap game, and maybe I'm on the wrong side of it. So if I am, I will be sitting here alone on reverse dollar bill island
Not what I would
where
do.
where you guys won and I didn't. But yeah, for now, I haven't projected as a slight favorite, so I'm going to take the points. And again, a little bit of money on the straight up money line, a little
Definitely.
bit. We're going to take it to an ugly game here. We got a couple ugly games to wrap it up. Not all of them, but a few of them have a bigger spread. This is a game that I took as my best pick. Detroit at the LA Rams minus 14.5. We are all on the Rams here. I'll let you get a little word in right after, but it just seems like that this is a blow-up game. Doesn't seem like there's anything that Detroit can do to slow this offense down for the Rams. And if the Rams can play a game like they did last week against a cupcake opponent, then there shouldn't be any problem. So we talked about the revenge narrative. Is there anything else going on in this game that we should keep an eye out for?
Well, speaking of the revenge narrative, you know that this defense knows Jared Goff better than any other quarterback. So they're going with their talent, I think that they're going to be able to feast on him. And I think that plays well into the line of 14.5. So give me the Rams all day here.
Yeah, for sure. And it seems like there's a little bit of turmoil in Detroit. I don't remember the head coach's name, but he was saying that Goff needs to play better. He's not playing up to expectations. Ooh. And, I mean, it's tough critics coming out of Detroit, all things considered, the way that they've been playing over not only this season, but the last couple. So I don't know what expectations they had for him. Clearly, Stafford is showing that he could have won had he had the right, maybe not even player personnel, but just overall like management personnel up there in Detroit. So, I think he's got a lot to prove here. And I think that McVay knows that as well. He's very close with Stafford. He's the reason why Stafford decided to go after their meeting in wherever they were, Cabo or whatever. So I think they got a nice little bond there going. So I think he's going to help Stafford pad some stats. I don't have the actual prop up, but we talked about props earlier with Jacoby Myers. Take a look at Matthew Stafford here, over passing yards, over touchdowns, whatever you can get. You could obviously parlay that into a like Cooper Kupp game or whatever else you want to look into for some touchdown props there. But I feel like this is a high scoring game. Tommy, what's the over under? Are you looking at that right now? Do you have the over under?
Absolutely pull that up in a second. I will say though, while that's loading, that I didn't hear the comments from Dan Campbell, but that's surprising considering that Jared Goff has probably been their second best offensive player behind DeAndre Swift. And there's not a whole lot he can do when you're throwing to guys like Khalif Raymond as your number one target. Or Amon-Ra St. Brown who was a fourth round pick this year, and he's their number one wide receiver as we speak. So maybe Dan Campbell should take a look at who he's surrounding his quarterback with instead of just looking right at his quarterback. The over under here is 50.5. So it's right on that 50 yard line, 50 point line. I would take the over there for sure.
Yeah, this is a game where you'll have to take a look at it probably day of, but if I was going to look at this game and I didn't like the 14.5 points, which I do, you could look at the over. You could look at the Rams team total, like individually, maybe not the whole game over, but their team total over. Maybe like the Rams first half line if you don't want 14.5 for the whole game because of a backdoor cover late. Maybe look at them getting up early either in the first quarter or the first half. So plenty of different things that you can take on the Rams there. I don't think it's going to be close at all. And I, again, think they're going to pad Matt Stafford's stats. So Rams blowout. Hopefully we're not eating those words next week, because we're all on the same page here.
Absolutely.
Taking it to Vegas, we have the Philadelphia Eagles at the Vegas Raiders here. Vegas -3, potential push game here. But we have a -3 spread. Tommy, you are in the city of brotherly love here, going with the Philadelphia Eagles. Tell me why.
I am. I'm going back to my my roots of Jalen Hurts love here. He's actually had like a pretty good fantasy year. Obviously, like real football hasn't factored in that much, but I chalk that more up to coaching. I was all over the Raiders last week because I thought that they would show out now that they're free of the wrath of John Gruden. But I feel like they're going to come back down here to this spot. And I think that the Eagles will take this one here. Only 3 points. This is actually going to be another high scoring game, and that over under is 49.5. So I would bet the over there as well. But as far as picking a team, I'll take 3 points in the Eagles here.
Yeah, I don't know what's gotten into Pat. Maybe it's one of those like Freudian slips because he just got married, but he thinks this is another trap game. So apparently there's a lot of trap games this week. Again, we love Kelly. We don't think he was trapped. Maybe he was, but he says that he's taking the points here. He feels like it's a trap game for the Raiders, but doesn't know why. He thinks Phillies look pretty good over the last couple of weeks. They covered it in the short week against the Bucks. We all know how that played out. It kind of screwed us a little bit.
True.
So he's taking the points here. I just think like the Vegas has this as an even matchup here between the Eagles and the Raiders, and as much hate and shade I've been throwing on the Raiders in the last couple of weeks, somewhat jokingly, somewhat for real. I think Vegas is a better team here, so I'm going to lay the 3 points, especially at home. I don't see this as an even matchup. I see this as slightly favored for the Vegas Raiders. So if I can get it at just -3, I'm going to take that this week. So I'm on Vegas -3. You guys are on Philadelphia +3 in that matchup. Yep, taking the points and putting me all alone on $1 Bill Island. So this will be one of my $1 Bill Island plays.
Yeah, you're going to either make a run or I'm going to pass you.
Yeah, I would love to go. What are there, 13 games? Give me 13-0 this week. That'd be fantastic. If I go 13-0 this week, I'm retiring from the podcast because I'll be financially stable for the rest of my life.
Fair. Can I just get like a 5% cut?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Another ugly game coming up here. We have the Houston Texans at the Arizona Cardinals here. Arizona is laying 17.5 points. Woo! Is that enough?
Well, I mean, it's the Cardinals game, so clearly I have to go with Houston, right? Based on my past weeks, I never bet the Cardinals, and it's worked out phenomenally so far. No, I'm only kidding. I am taking the Cardinals here, even with this giant number. Houston is worse than bad. The Cardinals are really, really good. They showed out against the Browns, even without like half of their coaching staff. So right here, I think that this is a huge eruption spot. Keep that going. Even though it is a large number, I will take the Cardinals, fully prepared for this to be the one time that they don't beat the spread.
Yeah, I only have this as a slight advantage here for the Cardinals in terms of value, not a slight advantage in terms of the game. I think this is like a 19 and a half, 20-point game. Obviously, you can't have half points, but where my projected spread is. So
right.
I'm going to take the 17.5 here. If it starts to creep up, it's getting a little bit too close for comfort. But J.J. Watt going against his team that didn't really help him do anything. I think this would be a nice ease-in game for Ertz if they do decide to play him and get him involved a little bit now that, ironically enough, we talked about it last week about Max Williams getting hurt, and now all of a sudden they make that trade midweek after the Thursday night game to get Ertz over there as a tight end to give him a nice little run here in a 6-0 team. So give me the Cardinals here. You agree, Pat agrees. Line's high, but we're still confident that the Cardinals are a good team and the Texans are a bad team. So let's take those 17.5 points and just not even worry about them. 17.5, no problem.
Pat did want to mention that he's probably not betting this game in real life. He's taking the cards just for the pod, but he says that the line is stupid. He doesn't even feel good about it in a teaser, but honestly, in a teaser, I'd probably feel better about it. But this is a really big line that I would.
Well, Pat's got a fun little teaser coming up here that we'll touch on in just a couple minutes. Yeah, we just teased the teaser. So we got a couple more picks to go through before we get to that portion of the podcast. Let's get into another ugly game here, what's projected to be an ugly game. Chicago at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay -12.5. Again, another double-digit plus spread here. Tampa Bay's at home, and we all like the Bucks. Tommy, we know why Pat likes the Bucks. Tom Brady, duh. We know why I like the Bucks. My numbers. Why do you like the Bucks this week?
I like the Bucks because even as bad as their defense is, I still don't like Matt Nagy trying to coach Justin Fields in his, I think, 2 total rushing attempts in 5 games started so far this year. It's probably not actually 2, but it's super low and should. He still hasn't unleashed him fully yet, and I don't understand why. Um, I will say though, with this bad defense, and I am taking the Bucks at -12.5. I think that this could be a little redemption spot for Allen Robinson, who has disappointed fantasy owners all year. Um, but other than that, I mean, they've been running through Khalil Herbert and who stepped in nicely through all the injuries, but Tampa Bay's run defense is too good. And I think that having to rely on Justin Fields' arm is not going to do well for them. And at -12.5, I'll take Tom Brady for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Tough couple of weeks there for Chicago going against Aaron Rodgers and now Tom Brady. So I don't know. Let's keep the train rolling here. Let's get Tampa Bay laying those points. 12.5 is a weird number, but whatever. I like it up to like 60.5. So 12.5 is okay for me. We're going to prime time here. We've got 2 games to go. Sunday Night Football. Indianapolis Colts at the San Francisco 49ers. The line we have right now is -4. Pat took Indy with his first pick. Questionable.
Yep.
Not only for the first pick, but considering you and I both like the 49ers here.
Yeah. I was going to say, I don't really understand because his blurb that he sent us is he's taking the points. Colts look better and better 2 weeks in a row, which is true. They do. But he also said the Niners are trending down, Jimmy G or not. But, I mean, they had a bye. So, I mean, in my eyes, they're trending neutral because they haven't played. And then I think the week before that was the Thursday night game against the Seahawks, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, sounds right.
And if that's the case, I mean, they escaped on Tyler Lockett tripping on a what's his name, on a Geno Smith throw that ended up in the game-ending interception. So I don't see how they're trending down at all. But yeah, -4 coming off a bye at home. Just had to sit there and prepare for this game for 2 weeks. I'll take the Niners for sure. I think that this should be up to like a touchdown spread.
Yeah, I agree. If it was like 6, 6.5, 7, it might be a different story. But like at 4, being right there in that, like, again, we talked about a little bit earlier, that red zone possession of like a field goal versus a touchdown could be the difference of getting you that 4 points. Or this could be a even matchup where it's tied and you get a late touchdown to, get that differential in the spread. So, yeah, I'm taking San Francisco here with the bye week and the home field advantage. I think that's probably why they're sitting at -4. So pretty straightforward line there. But let's take San Francisco for me and you, and Pat's taking the points +4 for Indianapolis. Last game on the schedule here for us, we have the New Orleans Saints road favorites -4.5 at Seattle. Seattle here with Geno Smith coming off another primetime game on Sunday night versus the Steelers where they covered but didn't win. Do we see that happening again this week, or do we think the Saints are going to take care of business?
I think the Saints are going to take care of business because once again, it's a team coming off a bye. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. They were able to cover against but the Steelers are not a good football team still, I don't think. And I think that the Saints are a legit defense, and I think that this is where the old Geno Smith that we know so well is going to pop back up. I think that Alvin Kamara is going to be able to run roughshod all over I don't know why that's my word of the week, but he's going to run all over this defense, and Jameis Winston just has to keep the game in control, which I think he can do, and the defense and Kamara will take care of the rest. So give me the Saints here, even though it's a big line on the road.
Yeah, I think the Seahawks should probably be favorites. Again, mine may not be adjusted enough for the Geno Smith, Russell Wilson drop-off, but either way, I think that 4.5 is a little bit too high. Maybe with the way that they've played over the last couple of weeks and Seattle not looking like themselves, it almost maybe feels like a Patriots spot where the Patriots when they're getting points, you're like, why is this the case? Does somebody know something that we don't know? So I'm going to take the points here, plus 4.5 for Seattle. Pat is on the boat with me, so you are alone on Dollar Bill Island on this one. In terms of confidence, though, I think Pat is just taking the points here because the Seahawks are at home. I don't think he's 100% confident. He thinks Geno Smith's played well enough in the last week and a half to keep it close. So we will see come Monday night if he has the ability to do so. So myself and Pat here are plus 4.5 for Seattle, and you, sir, Tommy Sullivan, minus 4.5 for the New Orleans Saints.
I can't believe I'm alone.
And that is going to why not be alone on Dollar Bill Island? It's always a good place to be. You can't. It doesn't get any worse because, you either win and you're on it, or you lose and it doesn't matter.
I lose and you guys win.
Just lost. Yeah, what's the worst that could happen for us? That's going to do it for our best bets here on the podcast, which, as you know, takes us into the final segment, which is the Parlay Party. Play it.
Hey, we like to party.
Parlay Party. This is our segment where we try and get you a couple picks together to win a little bit more money than you would just on their own. Of course, it does make it a little bit tougher because you do have to pair a couple teams together and they all have to win in order for you to win that bet overall. But the return is so sweet if you are able to hit. We have not hit a parlay on the podcast yet in all 6 weeks. However, we did hit a teaser last week. My teaser did hit, so we are 1 for however many we've given you on the podcast. We'll get into the teasers. What's up?
We got one. We won't say the total number. We got one win. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters. It doesn't make up for all the losses, but maybe if we can hit this Risk It for the Biscuit, it will. We're going to start with the Risk It for the Biscuit. This is where we either take some money line underdogs with plus odds here, or a favorite with the spread, which is typically minus 110 unless otherwise noted. This week, I created the Risk It for the Biscuit. We can go through, agree or disagree. I know right off the bat, Tommy's going to disagree with me because he doesn't like the Giants. He took the Panthers. So if you want to remove this one to keep it consistent, we absolutely can. However, my Risk It for the Biscuit for a huge return is the Patriots minus 6.5. Confident that they'll take care of business against the Jets. If they don't, I apologize. I also like the Giants money line plus 140, the Titans money line plus 200 versus the Chiefs, and the Seattle Seahawks money line plus 190. Couple underdogs here, all home dogs, if I believe, which is probably why I threw them in altogether. Overall, if you bet $100, you would win $3,803 in profit, which means a $10 bet gets you $380. So a huge return on investment. Obviously, a big risk there with 3 underdog money lines. If this is something you are going to place, make sure you do it responsibly. You could definitely bet these individually. If you like 1, 2, 3 of those, realistically speaking, if you put $10 on each of those money lines individually and you hit at least one of them, you're making up a lot of your difference anyway. So a couple options there, however you want to play it. But those are the picks that I like here. If you parlay them together, Risk It for the Biscuit, $10 to win $380, $100 to win $3,800. Tommy, how do you feel? I know you don't like the Giants. Do we like the Titans? Do we like the Seahawks?
Yeah, I don't like the Giants or the
At least
Seahawks.
For that kind of money.
But I mean, if you get those with those odds you're talking about, and you want to lay a little cheddar right there, I mean, $10 to win $380. That's what the parlays are for, right?
What's $10? That's like a week's worth of coffee there. You know what I'm saying?
Not even.
It's no big deal. Yeah, parlay 4 teams. All you got to do is have 4 teams win. Well, 3 teams win and 1 team cover. That's going to be the one that screws us.
I was going to say, I'm looking at the TD props again because I just love those. Right now, the Browns running back that is stepping up in lieu of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Dearness Johnson is at plus 115 to score a touchdown. I would be all over that, to be honest. When he stepped in last year when both of them were out, I think he averaged over 5 yards a carry. So he's a pretty good back. And if he's the lead back, he's probably going to get, especially with Baker injury, he's probably going to get 20 to 25 touches. I would plus 115 to have one of those go in the end zone. I would take that. That's probably my rookie. It's him and Jacoby.
I wonder if you guys should let us know if you're listening to this podcast. You should let us know if we should do like 1.5 podcasts each week where we do like our picks and then we do like a props. We should do like picks and props, like a nice little short props podcast where we just like go through and like pick some of those. Let us know.
Yeah, combine that with some reviews. Give us 5 stars, and then let us know if we want to do a pod and a half or not. But
yeah, we'll take your suggestions if and only if you rate us 5 stars.
Bingo.
No more, no less. Actually, you can't do more, but you can't do less. That's what we got for our money line risk it for the biscuit parlay. Oh, we got a couple playing it safe parlays here. Pat's still trying to get us a sponsor here. We threw out a couple condom brands. They haven't reached out to us yet. So we're still looking if you're in the sponsorship game. But this is where we give a little teaser. Give a little teaser here to some bets. If you're not familiar with a teaser, how that works is you can add a set number of points to the original spread to give yourself a better chance of winning. Just like a parlay, you do need a couple teams to win together in order to get the return. Pat has this crazy teaser going on here. Didn't know this was offered. This is in DraftKings where he found this. It's a 4-team teaser plus 13 points. They call this a monster teaser. All right. So each team that he picks here gets 13 points from their original spread. I'll explain those numbers in just a second here. If all 4 of these cover with the new spread, it is minus 140. All right. So you would have to put up $14 to win 10 or $140 to win 100. That ratio, 1.4 to win your 1 for whatever number you're looking for. So do your own math here, whatever you want to bet if you do follow along with this. But he's got the Packers minus 9.5 up to plus 3.5. The LA Rams from minus 14.5 down to just 1.5. The Arizona Cardinals minus 17.5 down to 4.5. And the Bucks minus 12.5 to plus 0.5. So again, you can see the huge change in spread there. It's almost 2 touchdowns difference at the 13 points. Again, you're not getting great odds there, but you are getting the benefit of having a lot of those points added. So if you're comfortable with those new lines and you want to throw those together in a monster teaser, go ahead and throw those in, or a couple teams of your choice. Again, those 4 are minus 140 to win your 100. I'll give you a little 6-point teaser here so you can have a little bit better odds than that. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to win. We're going to go 4 teams as well just to keep it consistent. A 6-point teaser here. I've got the Ravens minus 6 down to even. I've got the Dolphins plus 2.5 up to 8.5. The Patriots minus 6.5 to 0.5. That would be minus 0.5. And the New York Giants plus 3 up to plus 9. Personally, the 2 that I'm the least confident in are the Dolphins and the Giants, which means those will probably hit, and the Ravens and Patriots will probably lose outright this week because that's how it's been going up until last week where we did hit our teaser. So play accordingly. If you want to swap some in, swap some out, mix around, mix and match. There's a lot of stuff you can do on the DraftKings app to get the lines exactly where you need it to be, to get your odds exactly where you want them to be. Tommy, any last words here before we sign off on this week's 3-Man Rush podcast?
I don't think so. Outside of Jacoby Myers and Dearness Johnson, the other TD props aren't really up right now, but I'm sure that if I saw them later, I would have some. But I think that's about it. I'm actually feeling, it's coming off a 500 week. I'm feeling pretty good about these picks this week. Oh my gosh, can't talk.
Dude, I'm feeling 13-0 for myself this week. I mean, obviously we can't all go 13-0 because we have some differing picks, but I'm feeling a 13-0 week. This is it, people. This is the week.
I feel like all three of us going 7-7 across the board is probably like the best the three of us can do in terms because we always like to compete with each other as well. But for like the most well-rounded score, 500 is probably about where we max out as a trio.
Yeah, it's funny too because we had all picked Tampa Bay to cover. We lost that. We all picked Carolina to cover. We lost that. So there were 2 games that we picked exactly the same that we lost.
Yeah.
And there was the Giants-Rams game. We were all on the Rams. We were all on Green Bay. We were all on Cincinnati. We were all on Seattle. And those are games that won that we were all on. So it's funny how, like, we took out half the games right there with all of the same picks. And then just all of our other picks just happen to work themselves out. Some dollar bill island, some not, but they just work themselves out all the way through. So
bingo. The only,
we did
the only
it.
other thing I will mention before we go is in addition to giving us a review, just rate, review, follow us on wherever you get your podcast. Follow us on YouTube. For those of you that don't know, this goes up on YouTube as well, so you get to see our lovely faces. Mine is more suited for podcasts, but I do it anyways. But yeah, follow us wherever you get your podcasts on YouTube. Rate, review, subscribe. You don't even have to listen. Just download it, delete it. Give us those numbers, please. I'll shill.
And suggestions. What you like, what you don't like, what you want to hear, what you don't want to hear. If you want more segments, you want less segments, you want some props, you don't want props, you want straight bets, you want whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
We can get into unders.
Only if you 5-star review, though.
Only, right? Only if you 5-star review on here and on the Uber app.
Yes.
Tip your drivers, people.
That's
going to do it for this week's edition of the 3-Man Rush podcast. I am, again, Carl Mann here with Tommy Sullivan. Please remember to gamble responsibly and remember to take those points.
Good luck at your at your sports book, everybody.
At your box office.
Whoopsie.
See the movie. Get your popcorn ready. Don't be a shell.